Hello, everybody. My name is Tyler Russo, and this is the KO Podcast, episode number 32. In this episode, I will be reviewing UFC Fight Night, Muniz vs. Allen. Also, I will be reviewing Bellator 291. And, of course, this weekend is the return of Jon Jones. He will be headlining UFC 285. Super excited to see Jon Jones back in action. He is making his heavyweight debut. So let's get to the show. Ring that bell. All right, let's get to UFC Fight Night, Muniz versus Allen. Obviously, the original main event for this was Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Spann, but that unfortunately fell out right as the main card started. The broadcast team was the bearer of bad news, unfortunately. So we only had a 4-fight main card. But let's start in the prelims, where there were some impressive performances. Let's get to the first fight of the night. It was a lightweight bout. We had Rafael Alves taking on Nurul Alvi, and Nurillo, I believe that's how you say his name, Nurillo Alvi gets the decision victory. He now moves to 9-0. Very impressive victory over the always tough and always entertaining Rafael Alves. The next matchup was a lightweight bout. We had Joe Solecki taking on Carl Deaton, and Solecki gets the second round finish. Moving on, we had a catchweight bout. We had Odi Osborne taking on Charles Johnson, and Odi Osborne gets the decision victory. The next fight was a lightweight bout. We had Jordan Levitt taking on Victor Martinez, and Jordan Levitt gets the TKO finish. And we had a women's flyweight bout. We had Jasmine Javidakis taking on Gabriela Fernandez, and Jasmine Javidakis gets the decision victory. Then, to top off the prelim portion of the card, we had a lightweight bout. We had Eric Gonzalez taking on Trevor Peek, and oh my goodness, Trevor Peek, he is all gas, no brakes. His finishing sequence on Eric Gonzalez was brutal, to say the least. He definitely made a huge statement in his UFC debut. It was a hell of a fun fight to watch. So shout out to Trevor Peek on giving us an amazingly brutal finish. Now, moving on to the main card. As I mentioned earlier, the original main event fell out as the main card was beginning. The first fight on this 4-fight main card was a welterweight bout. We had Mike Mullock taking on Johan Lazi, and Mike Mullock gets the first round submission. Very impressive performance by him. Moving on, we had a women's flyweight bout. We had Tatiana Suarez making her long-awaited return against Montana De La Rosa, and Tatiana Suarez gets the second round submission. A great win by Suarez. She will be moving down to strawweight from now on, but it was a really good return fight for her. She really showed that her wrestling and grappling is still very much on point and elite. Moving on, in the co-main event, we had a heavyweight bout. We had Augusto Sakai taking on Dontel Mays. This fight was, not exciting, to say the least. It was two heavyweights, laying on each other. it wasn't, not a lot of action, but Augusto Sakai does get a much needed win. He was on like a 4-fight losing streak before this fight. So, it wasn't the, most fun fight. It's a pretty boring fight, but, Sakai, he needed that win. So, good on him for getting that win. Moving on, we had the emergency main event. We had a middleweight bout. We had Andre Muniz taking on Brendan Allen, and Brendan Allen gets the third round submission. I have to say, I picked Andre Muniz to win this fight. I was dead wrong. Brendan Allen had a great performance. I mean, he submitted Muniz. I did not expect Allen to submit him. Andre Muniz, I had, a very high ceiling on his grappling, but hey, that just shows how elite of a grappler Brendan Allen is. So, hey, I give him a lot of props. He is now going to be a ranked middleweight. So, very excited to see some new blood in this middleweight division. So, from now on, I have a new respect for Brendan Allen's submission game. Now, let's get to Bellator 291. Bellator was in Dublin, Ireland for this card. Looking at the prelims, some fighters that won that I do want to shout out. We got Oleg Popov getting a victory and moving to 15-1. We also had Brian Moore getting a decision victory in Ireland, always a big deal. We also had Richie Smullen from Ireland getting the victory, and also Kijan Magomed Sharipov, I believe that's how you say his name. I apologize if I butchered it, but he wins by TKO. He is now 8-0. And also, I do want to shout out Carl Moore for getting a decision victory in Ireland, of course, his home country. Now, let's move on to the main card. Kicking the main card off, we had Syrian Clark taking on Leonardo Sinis, and Syrian Clark gets the decision victory. He now moves to 7-0 in his young career. In the next bout, we had a women's featherweight bout. We had Sinead Kavanaugh taking on Janae Harding, and Sinead Kavanaugh gets the decision victory. And in the next fight, we had a lightweight bout. We had Peter Queally taking on Bryce Logan. And Peter Queally was doing really well in this fight. He was controlling the fight and the pace of it until Bryce Logan hits Queally in the chin with an elbow that sits Queally down, and Bryce Logan jumps on top of him and finishes him. The tides turned super quick in this fight. Bryce Logan really needed this win. He was 0-4 before getting this W, so really was fighting for his Bellator job. Moving on, in the co-main event, we had a featherweight bout. We had Pedro Cavallo taking on Jeremy Kennedy, and Jeremy Kennedy gets the decision victory. Kennedy just really out-grappled Cavallo and, just really held him down. Cavallo couldn't really do anything but defend. After a while, it was just hard for him to get up and keep defending these takedowns. Jeremy Kennedy was relentless with his grappling. I knew coming into this fight that he had a big grappling advantage over Cavallo. So Jeremy Kennedy now definitely a top contender in this Bellator featherweight division. Now for the main event, we had Yaroslav Amosov taking on Logan Storley for the welterweight world champion. It was champ versus interim champ. Yaroslav obviously went to fight in the Ukraine, in that terrible war to defend his homeland and his fellow country and countrymen. And, what an amazing story. And, for him to come out and win this fight the way he did, it just shows how much of an elite mixed martial artist he is. Yaroslav Amosov defended every takedown that Storley attempted, I believe. That is insanely impressive for a guy who had such a long time off. I mean, just big props to Yaroslav Amosov, just a hero in the Ukraine, and just should be a hero to all of us. Just an amazing story again, and he gets the decision victory over Logan Storley. Just a amazing story with a great, just a great kind of fight to top it all off, where he has a great fight, moves to 27-0. Amosov is definitely one of the best welterweights in the world right now. So that's definitely not a question. And let's move on to UFC 285. All right, taking a look at this card from top to bottom, it is a very stacked card. We have a lot of talent everywhere, and let's get to the prelims. The first fight I want to highlight is a bantamweight bout. We got Damon Blackshear taking on Farid Basharat. This is going to be a very good fight. It's definitely going to be a really good fight for the earlier fights. This fight I am very excited for. Moving on, we got a women's strawweight bout. We have Jessica Penne taking on Tabitha Ricci. Jessica Penne, a vet in women's MMA. Tabitha Ricci, she has been in the UFC now for a little while. This fight should be a good one. Moving on, we got a bantamweight bout. We have Mana Martinez taking on Cameron Simon. And Cameron Simon, what a Contender Series finish he got. Really excited to see how he does in his UFC debut. Moving on, we got a welterweight bout. We got Ian Gary taking on Kenyon Sun. And, Ian Gary, obviously a hot welterweight prospect coming into this one. He's got a lot of hype around him. He is 10-0. He's looked pretty good in his fights. There's definitely some holes that he has that, he has to clean up. So I'm really looking for him to make big strides in this fight. So I'm hoping to see that from Ian Gary. Moving on, we have a middleweight bout. We got Julian Marquez taking on Marc-Andre Barriat. This should be a fun fight because Julian Marquez always puts on a show. He's an all-action fighter. He takes risk, and he is not afraid to brawl. This should be a fun one. Moving on, we have a women's flyweight bout. We got Viviane Drago taking on Amanda Ribas. And, this should be a good grappling match. I think both of these women's strong suits are on the ground. So let's see if they, have any, really nice grappling exchanges in this fight, or maybe it might just stay as a stand-up fight because their grappling may cancel each other out. Who knows, in that fight. Moving on, we got a middleweight bout. We got Derek Brunson taking on Drexis Dupuis. And, this is a big fight for Dupuis. Obviously, he won by submission in his last fight against Darren Till. Biggest win of his career. Duplessis is 18-2, so that's a very impressive record. He is now, he's taking on a UFC vet in Derek Brunson. Obviously, Brunson is a great wrestler, so I'm really excited to see how Duplessis' wrestling matches up with Brunson's. I'm assuming that Drexus Duplessis, is going to try to keep this fight standing up. I believe he has the advantage in the stand-up game. It's going to be fun to see who wins this matchup of striker versus grappler. Even though Duplessis had a submission win, still consider him a striker. Moving on, we have a bantamweight matchup. We have the former UFC bantamweight champion Cody Garbrandt taking on Trevin 5-Star Jones. And Cody Garbrandt, I think we all know he has not had a very, successful couple of years. He's only got one win in his, last 5 fights, I believe. And, his last fight, he moved down to flyweight and he got finished by Kai Kara France. So now he is back at bantamweight. At this point in, Cody Garbrandt's career, it's like he either, gets gut or gets somebody. It's like either he's KOing someone or he's getting KO'd himself. And it's just a crazy fall from where his status was after that Dominic Cruz win. It's been a lot of downhill fights. He did have that great knockout win against Rafael Assunção, I believe. But, that was now in 2020, just a lot of losses for him and a lot of things going on in his personal life. He mentioned some of those things at his media day. So I'm sure, that did not help either. I'm hoping to see the old Cody Garbrandt, but, I'm just not sure we're going to see that. Trevin Jones, he is a tough guy. So I would not be surprised if Trevin Jones gets this win. Cody Garbrandt, when he gets hit, he just starts swinging wild. And, if you just go look at some of his losses, some of those, with more patience, maybe he could have won those, at a different point in that fight instead of pushing the pace so much. He is just... sometimes he's just so reckless in his fights, and I feel like that's why he's been knocked out so many times. But, this should be a fun fight regardless. Who knows what's going to happen in this. Cody Garbrandt, like I said, he's always wanted to move forward, and Trevin Jones is a pretty damn good striker himself. So, that should be a fun fight. Moving on now to the main card of this pay-per-view, we got a middleweight bout leading it off. We have Bo Nickel taking on Jamie Pickett. Bo Nickel, of course, making his UFC debut after going 2-0 on Dana White's Contender Series with 2 quick submission wins. This guy looks like he is going to be a problem. Obviously, a 3-time national champion in wrestling at Penn State, I believe. So, his wrestling pedigree is pretty damn good. And, his first professional fight was elsewhere. I believe it was Icon Fighting, which is Jorge Masvidal's fighting company that he owns, I believe. He got a knockout there. And then, as I said, he goes 2-0 on the Dana White's Contender Series, getting 2 submission wins. He's going against Jamie Pickett, who is a tough UFC vet. He was also on Dana White's Contender Series many years ago. So I'm excited to see Bo Nickel make his UFC debut on the main card. All the lights are on him. I'm excited to see him shine. Moving on, we have a lightweight bout. We have Matis Gamrot taking on Jalen Turner. And originally, Jalen Turner was supposed to fight somebody else, but Gamrot takes this fight on short notice. Gamrot coming off of his Benel Dariush loss. Jalen Turner is on a multiple fight win streak right now. He's looking really good in this lightweight division. I love his length in this division. He is 6'2". He's got a 77-inch reach. Like I said, he's really like fun to see in this lightweight division with all of that length in his arms and in his legs. He's a very well-rounded mixed martial artist. Very excited to see what Jalen Turner brings to the table this fight. Moving on, we got a welterweight bout. We got Jeff Neal taking on Shavkat Rakhmonov. I believe that's how you say his last name. Rakhmonov. And Jeff Neal coming off of such an impressive win over Vincent Luque. I mean, Luque is, he's a dog. He's a beast. He had an uncrackable chin until Jeff Neal broke it. I mean, I was super, super impressed with Jeff Neal's performance in that fight. I did not think he was going to finish Luque, but he is called Hands of Steel for a reason. And, Jeff Neal is no slouch. Like I said, he's got power, but Shavkat Rakhmonov, 16-0. This guy looks like he's going to be a future champion in this welterweight division. He's got a lot of hype around him. He's a very, mysterious figure at this point in his career. He's only 28 years old, really coming into his physical prime. Very excited to see Shavkat Rakhmonov. And now we have a women's flyweight co-main event. We got Valentina Shevchenko, who is the UFC flyweight women's champion, taking on Alexa Grasso. Obviously, Valentina Shevchenko coming off of a close split decision victory over Talia Santos, but we now look towards Alexa Grasso, and obviously Alexa Grasso really really well-rounded mixed martial artist. She got her first submission win over Joanne Wood, I believe, but Alexa Grasso is mostly known for her boxing. Her boxing is really tight, always has her hands always up and blocking. She's got that traditional, just really tight boxing stance. But, Valentina Shevchenko, I just believe she's got so many more tools to beat Grasso. She's got her kicks. She has fabulous striking. She's great on the ground. I think Alexa Grasso, I think she can stand with Shevchenko, but once it gets to the ground, I believe Shevchenko is going to show that there are levels to this game. It's just so hard to pick against Valentina. She's been the flyweight champion for so long. I believe this is either her 8th or 9th title defense. That's insane to think about. Again, I believe Valentina Shevchenko has too many tools to win. She's going to overwhelm Alexa Grasso with her mixed martial arts skills. And now, what everybody has been waiting for 3 long years, Jon Bones Jones finally returns to the octagon where he belongs. He is a GOAT in the sport, a light heavyweight champion for so long. In 2020, he vacated it, due to a pay dispute. But now, since he got paid, he moves up to heavyweight and he faces Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane is just, he is a freak athlete at the heavyweight position. I think this is a great matchup for Jon Jones to be introduced into the heavyweight rankings. Ciryl Gane, obviously the former interim heavyweight champ. Gane coming off of a huge knockout win over Tai Tuivasa. His striking is no joke. His kicks are no joke. This guy, he is thick. And obviously we know that Jon Jones doesn't have the thickest of calves or legs, but obviously he is the GOAT. And man, I am just so excited to see Jon Jones go back out there. Obviously, outside of the octagon, he's had his issues. Even recently, back in 2021, and so when he is not on the octagon, he makes a lot of mistakes. But inside of the octagon, he is basically undefeated. Obviously, he has one loss, but that is a disqualification loss. He should be undefeated, though. That was a BS disqualification loss for Jon Jones. Definitely, that was a win for him. But yeah, I mean, he's finally back. He's in a new weight class. Gane, is going to be a challenge for him. It's hard for me to pick. Again, Jon Jones has not fought in 3 years. Is there going to be ring rust? He's had other layoffs due to suspensions and other things like that, and he has always performed, at his best, or at least, performed well enough to win the fight. So I'm going to have to go Jon Jones in this fight. I just think that, he is going to be able to grapple Gane, maybe tire him out. He's going to be able to land on the feet. He always has that. That wrestling to fall back on. I feel like Jon Jones is going to use the clinch to his advantage. He's going to use his elbows. He's going to go to the body. He's just, I feel, such an elite mixed martial artist, at this point, even moving up to heavyweight. And, he's 35 years old, so it's not like he is, at all old. 35 is still young in the sport of mixed martial arts, and he hasn't taken too much damage. So, I'm going to say that Jon Jones is going to put on a mixed martial arts masterclass against Cyril Gane, and he is going to be the new UFC heavyweight champion. That is my prediction for the main event. I cannot wait to see this one go down. And that is going to do it for this episode of the KO podcast. To stay up to date with the podcast, follow the podcast on social media. We have a Twitter at the KO podcast with Tyler Russo. We have a Instagram at the KO_podcast, and we have a YouTube channel. Of course, I highly recommend you subscribe to the YouTube channel. That is the KO podcast with Tyler Russo. Thank you for taking the time out of your day, as always, to listen. Stay safe, stay blessed. Bye-bye.